Imagine for a moment that you are in the middle of a heated argument. Words are flying and emotions are taking over. Maybe you've been there before. Maybe you said something you regretted seconds later. Now think, what if there was a way, even in intense situations, for you to pause, breathe, and respond instead of reacting? This video is exactly about that. We're going to talk about how emotional intelligence can be your most powerful tool to control emotions and resolve conflicts effectively and consciously. Stay with me until the end of the video because the message here has the potential to change your life forever. Have you ever wondered why, in moments of stress, it seems so difficult to stay in control? The answer lies in our brain. Inside our heads, the limbic system, which is responsible for emotions, reacts much faster than the prefrontal cortex, the rational part. When something upsets us, it's as if the limbic system pulls the trigger before logic even has a chance to intervene. This phenomenon, often called emotional hijacking, is a survival reflex we inherited from our ancestors, but it doesn't always serve us well in the modern world. This explains why we often react impulsively, without thinking about the consequences. Understanding that your brain works this way is not an excuse to lose control, but an invitation to learn how to manage it. When we understand this dynamic, we begin to realize that we have more power over our responses than we imagine. Emotional intelligence begins with self-awareness. This means recognizing what you're feeling at the moment you're feeling it. It sounds simple, but in practice, it's a challenge. When something irritates or hurts us, the tendency is to focus on what the other person did or said. However, the key is to turn inward. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Anger, frustration, anxiety? Name the emotion. Studies show that by naming what we feel, we reduce the intensity of that emotion. It's as if we're telling our brain, I understand you. Now let's work on this together. This simple act can be a game changer in emotional control. Imagine, for example, that instead of exploding in an argument, you could say, I feel like I'm getting frustrated. I need a moment to process this. Small steps like this pave the way for deeper emotional control. But recognizing isn't enough. You need to self-regulate. This brings us to the second fundamental skill of emotional intelligence, self-regulation. When we talk about self-regulation, we're not suggesting that you suppress or ignore your emotions. On the contrary, it's about learning to deal with them healthily. Imagine your emotion is like a wave in the ocean. You can't stop it from coming, but you can choose how to ride it. Practical techniques include deep breathing, counting to 10, or stepping away from the situation for a few minutes. These strategies help slow down the limbic system's response, allowing the prefrontal cortex, the rational part of the brain, to take control. Moreover, practices like mindfulness and meditation have been shown to be highly effective in training the brain to respond more calmly. The more we practice these techniques, the quicker we can access this state of emotional balance in stressful moments. If you're not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now, or you might not find me again. Controlling emotions doesn't mean being indifferent or cold. On the contrary, it means being more present. For example, in a conflict, genuinely listening to what the other person is saying can completely transform the dynamic. This brings us to another essential skill of emotional intelligence: empathy. Empathy is not just understanding what the other person is feeling, but communicating that you understand. This can be done with phrases like, I understand that this was frustrating for you, or I see how important this is to you. This emotional validation disarms the conflict and creates space for dialogue. Imagine a scenario where instead of responding defensively, you say, I see this is important to you. Let's try to find a solution together. These words have the power to transform the energy of a conflict. Conflicts, after all, are not about winning or losing. They are about understanding. Often disagreements arise because both parties are more concerned with being heard than with listening. Emotional intelligence teaches us that listening is as important or even more important than speaking. By paying attention to tone of voice, choice of words, and even body language, you can pick up nuances that help you understand what's really happening. Remember, behind every intense emotion, there is an unmet need. When you identify that need, the conflict becomes an opportunity for connection rather than a battlefield. Think about how many situations could be resolved if both parties sought to understand before being understood. Another crucial aspect of controlling emotions and resolving conflicts is assertive communication. Being assertive is not being aggressive or passive. It's finding a balance. It's expressing your needs and feelings clearly and respectfully without disrespecting the other person. For example, instead of saying, "You always do this," Zrenia, which sounds accusatory, you could say, "When this happens, I feel this way." This type of communication reduces defensiveness and paves the way for constructive dialogue. Assertiveness is like a bridge that connects what you feel with what the other person needs to hear, creating a path for practical and respectful solutions. If you've made it this far, I ask you to leave a like. It's very important for YouTube to keep showing my content. One of the most common traps in conflicts is personalization. Often, we take other people's actions or words as personal attacks when, in reality, they reflect more about the other person's emotional state than about us. Developing emotional intelligence also means learning to separate what is yours from what is theirs. This not only protects your emotional health, but also prevents you from reacting disproportionately. Think about this. When you realize that someone's criticism is more about their feelings or insecurities than about you, the weight of that criticism diminishes. But what about when the conflict is internal? When what we're trying to resolve is a battle within ourselves? Emotional intelligence is essential here too. Often we feel conflicting emotions. We want to act one way, but part of us resists. In these situations, self-reflection is crucial. Take a moment to ask yourself, what do I really want? And what is stopping me from achieving it? Writing your thoughts down can help organize your emotions and identify behavioral patterns you might not have noticed before. Additionally, techniques like journaling, where you regularly record your thoughts, can help create a safe space to explore and better understand your internal emotions. It's important to remember that emotional intelligence is not something you simply acquire. It's a continuous process of learning and practice. It's about being willing to make mistakes, learn from them, and try again. Every time you choose to pause before reacting, to listen before speaking, or to reflect before judging, you are strengthening your emotional intelligence. Think of emotional intelligence as a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes, allowing you to face emotional challenges with more confidence and skill. Finally, controlling emotions and resolving conflicts is not just a skill for difficult moments. It's something that transforms every area of your life. It improves your relationships, increases your productivity, and above all, brings more inner peace. So the next time you find yourself in a challenging situation, remember, you have the power to choose how to respond, and that choice can change everything. Imagine the impact this can have not just on your life, but on the lives of those around you. Every conscious choice you make is a step toward a more empathetic and connected world. If you've made it this far, leave a comment, and if you'd like more tips on how to control your emotions and improve your well-being, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any content. See you in the next video.